So, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 1 Point Safety Show. Joined by my co-host Scouse Andy. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Looking forward to this pod as always, and we are
Aye.
delighted to be joined with
Yeah,
a
I'm
special
excited for
guest
this
this
one.
week. Special guest. It's Adam Aniba from the B&G Report. And he's often on the Big Douglas show as well. So I'm pretty certain that most of our listeners out there who are on social media, on Twitter, have heard of Adam. But yeah, thank you for being on with us, Adam. We really appreciate you reaching out. And it's great to have you on our show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, no problem at all. That's what we're here for.
Man.
We always like to open it up from the European side as well as having you guys on. I mean, you know more about football than I forgot. So do you know what I mean? It's
the other way around, mate. The other way around.
Other way around. But you know what I mean. You see my point. Yeah, you know what I mean. So we have got some questions for you then, Adam, if that's all right. Obviously, do you want to just discuss the Burgundy and Gold report and what you do and how you came about doing really good breakdowns? You send me one for every week. I always have a read of it. Exceptional work that you're doing. So if you just want to explain what you've been up to, that'd be grand.
Sure. But I started about 7 years ago. I've always, ever since I was a kid, when the draft wasn't even, a big thing, I used to have my boards, my top players, do my mock drafts and stuff. Before that was even a thing, you just do it on paper, in the late 80s. I've been a fan since 83. But a couple years ago, I did start the Burgundy and Gold report a couple years ago, but we got on the .com off of the WordPress about 4 years now. But so what I decided to do was, I've always been into, scouting players, doing drafts. So I decided, what is the best training out there? So I got involved with, some great former NFL GMs and scouts, Scott Pioli, Louis Riddick. They're running a program with Dan Hatman called the Scouting Academy. A lot of people on Twitter have got involved with that. Just a great place to really, hone your skills and learn that. So, once I kind of incorporated that together, I'm a writer by heart, diehard fan, but I've always been a writer since I was a kid. So I went to college for. I put out the Burgundy and Gold report, and I started it with really, small school HBCU guys, because besides maybe draft diamonds, nobody was really writing about them. So, along the way, I've had some great interviews with some guys that, really made it, to the pros, from the Division III all the way to HBCU. Talked to Josh Williams last year from Fayetteville State. He won a Super Bowl with Kansas City. So that's kind of what's got me going. But really, just right from a fan perspective, but always try to keep it, I'm not into that, that Kool-Aid rah-rah stuff. I've been around since the first Gibbs era, the second Gibbs era. So I've kind of see, the downfall of this team and, where it's fallen from greatness. So I don't kid myself, and either does my writing on, trying to put people out there. But right now, like you mentioned, I put out undrafted free agent scouting reports, because, that's, you'll get, maybe some sites will touch on it, a little bit of opinion about it, but, I'll really do a deep dive, just like I'm doing on my scouting reports. And, it's just interesting to see some of the guys, you go into camp, who are these unknowns? I like to put it out there just so, when our fans hit training camp, we're not just looking at the main guys, we're looking at all the guys that, have a chance to make the roster. So I just enjoy what I do. And I've been, again, this 7 years, and just enjoy putting it out there.
Oh, that's fantastic, mate. Thanks for giving us a rundown of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Doug's live streams. I've seen you with George Carmi last week. So, I was lucky enough to meet up with George last year, and we're going to meet up with Doug this year. So we need to get you at some point, Adam. We'll get you. And then that's the trifecta done then. So we'll get that done.
Sure.
So which players within the current setup then do you think they'll be on the bubble and not make the 53-man rosters? And are there any of the veterans that we think that are on there now, maybe at risk to maybe losing their place to an undrafted free agent or a camp body that comes in?
Yeah, really just two names really just come to mind on the defense. Casey Toohill, not really a big name, but he's been, a mainstay in the rotation. But with Chase Young coming back again, tempered expectations, Smith Williams will be backing him and Sweat up. I think Sweat will continue to have a high snap count, but I think with Young, especially for the first, 5 to 6 weeks, I think you'll see more of a rotation with him and Williams. But, my surprise there is I think they moved up in the draft in the 5th round to draft KJ Henry out of Clemson. I wrote about him. Really good prospect, was one of the best high school edge rushers coming out when he came out, 5-star. So, it's one of those things that hasn't lived up to his potential. But right now, Coach Z and Del Rio, he's in the system to thrive. So I think he's going to end up pushing Casey Tuhill off the roster. So mild surprise there, not really a big one. But another one that I think a lot of fans will be happy to hear is that Dax Milne. I have him getting pushed off the roster. We'll talk more about him. We talk about one of my favorite undrafted guys, but this kid from UCLA, Kaz Allen, just a do-it-all kind of prospect. I see him pushing him off the roster. But again, we can talk about him in a little bit.
That's interesting when you talk about the edge rushers there, because obviously they gave a decent enough contract to F.A. Obada, our boy out there doing his thing for the UK fans. And obviously if he's pushing Tuhill on the depth chart off, you think KJ Henry's going to push Tuhill out. Yes. I mean, I would look at it and think they'd probably take 6 edge rushers maybe, but last year they took 5. So I kind of agree exactly with where you're going. But do you see F.A. maybe the odd man out as well? Because obviously he had a bit of a rotation last year.
There's always someone that rises in camp. I wrote about him, the 7th round out of Louisiana, Andre Jones Jr. But what I'm hearing is they're trying to get him more in that outside linebacker role, because he was scouted as, although he's 6'6", 250-ish, that coming out 3-4 outside linebacker. Del Rio, I think they like the idea. I think he's a project. So if somehow he just really has a lights out camp, another guy 6 years in college, they love these guys. If he somehow really breaks out, I see him pushing someone like Obada off. But for now, I believe they still get that roster exemption for the international players. So I think, he's good unless they, because I think that there's a couple veteran defensive ends out there. I'd feel comfortable if they brought one in and that could push him off. But as it stands right now, I think he makes the final 53.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
He bought his jersey, so he better make the 53.
Yeah. Get one of those transfers. Transfer that name off it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Adam, what do you think about kind of you did a breakdown on a guy called Mason Brooks, is that right? And 5 years college experience, like you mentioned about these high level, longevity at college. Just wondering, do you think he's good enough to possibly kick somebody out, or is he just there as a camp body really?
Well, he fits the formula of what they like. Again, 5+ years in college. Started at Western Kentucky, played left tackle, right tackle, and when last year at Ole Miss was, they really hurt his draft stock, because he was playing 13+ games before that, but only played 150 total snaps last year. But he was at guard, and I really liked the tape where I saw him at guard. So that's his best chance to make this roster. We keep hearing, right now it's Sadiq Charles' job to lose every year, though. We hear some of Sadiq Charles. It's usually injury. I don't have any faith in him. I like Chris Paul a lot more. They're battling it out right now. Braden Daniels, the guy they got out of Utah in the 4th round. You keep hearing tackles where they want him, but he's another one that's ideally a guard. So with Brooks, what I liked about him is, he fits a power run game. So if they're really trying to, run the outside stuff, that's where it's a little concerning for me, because you want him in that phone booth. You don't really want him on the outside on the island too much. But again, I read about these guys because they're worth writing about. If they're bringing them to camp, to me, they're worth writing about. And I think that it'll take an injury. But he'll battle. I like his toughness. I like his size, 6'6", 315 plus. So he's got the size. We'll see how the battle works out in the interior. Right now it sounds like the only job up for grabs is left guard. You have Wiley at right tackle, Cosme at right guard for the first time. Gates, that's his job at center, and Leno Jr. at left tackle. So really, it's just one job they're battling for between Sadiq Charles and Paul. So I think every guard is and the roster is on the mix, because I really think it's a position where they're not committing a ton of money to anybody at that spot. So it's going to be the guy that plays the best. So you just never know. But right now, I see him as probably more of a practice squad candidate. But again, a guy I see why they drafted him. I like his ceiling.
Yeah, I see. Really interesting that.
I mean, excuse me, not drafted. I see why they signed him as an undrafted.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So no, I mean, you're really interesting prospect that, and I really enjoyed your breakdown on that. So yeah, shout out if anyone wants to have a look at that, go and have a look at the Burgundy and Gold report. It's well worth a good read. So we've had a mini camp and we've had OTAs. Obviously, we've had a few standouts there. We've heard that Emmanuel Forbes has come as advertised from a lot of it. Obviously, I'm not necessarily buying into the hype. Completely understand the look of him. He's a skinny dude. There's no getting away from that. We've heard that he's bulked up to around about 180 pounds from 166. But obviously, he's got what we were missing last year potentially. We were terrible at taking the ball away, and you sign a guy from the SEC who's got the highest rate of takeaways in the league. You know what I mean? And you picture that up with the second round pick of Quan Martin as well. You bring him in, and then this defense looks a lot better. So, were there any standouts for you during camp and during OTAs that you looked at and thought, yeah, this is a good move, or anyone that's potentially into the next year? I've heard a lot about Percy Butler as well, making a step up. So if I've just took that away from you, I apologize. But yeah, no. These are the ones we're hearing.
And also Sip as well, isn't it? He's been doing quite well as well, hasn't he? Sip is.
No.
Yeah, the 7th rounder from last year. What's his name? He's on
yeah. Who was
the cornerback?
Cornerback, yeah. So
played special teams.
Who, Holmes you're talking about?
Holmes,
yeah.
Christian Holmes.
I don't know why they call him Sip, but he do.
No, they like him. They like him in the back end of the roster. But you said it. I wrote about Percy Butler last week as far as the whole Buffalo nickel situation, having 3 safeties out there. It's really interesting because just like Quan Martin coming out, they look at him as a guy that has the potential to cover the slot, but is that true single high deep safety, last line of defense back there. So to me, it's really interesting because Derek Forrest kind of came on. He played for Curl when Curl was out, but then when Curl came back, we saw him, more in that D safety role, and maybe they were rolling Bobby McCain in and out. So it'll be interesting because I think Butler and Forrest will be interchangeable in that free safety look, but having Curl able to challenge tight ends, be the spy, be closer to the line. I think you'll be seeing Forrest and Butler playing deep more often. And now, as soon as they get, I think more comfortable with Quan Martin, out of all of those guys, other than Curl, I think he can play the run. He's a really physical corner who's, really tailor-made to play the nickel. I see exactly why they drafted him in the 2nd round, because I think he's going to contribute, right away. So, we'll talk about linebackers, but there's not really a huge dilemma schematically for them because I see what they're doing. They're loading up on defensive backs. You're going to see at least 5 safeties. They might even go 6, depending on what they think, what they're going to exactly do with Quan Martin. But, the lack of linebackers really shows to me they were in base 4-3 defense less than, I think it was 15% of the time.
Yep.
And that nickel, Buffalo nickel, 70% of the time, nearly 70% of the time. I think you're going to see that continue to rise. They play teams that are run first defenses, but when you're able to bring Curl in the box, I don't care right now. There's not too many middle linebackers that were on the market, that were in this draft, that are going to be able to cover, tight ends like, Kelsey, but also lay the run game like Curl. Curl is one of those deceiving guys. You just look at his film, he's a hitter. So if you can have him just roaming, that's what he does best. So I think able to have a guy like, Percy Butler come in, interchangeable, move him in and out, him and Quan Martin, I think you're going to see a lot of movement coming in and out of that defensive backfield. You talked about Forbes. I'm really excited to see this Baltimore scrimmage. It's been a long time coming. It's been more than a couple years since they did it with the Texans. Yeah. This is a great way to really see how these rookies are going to play in Forbes. Make no mistake, he's going to get abused right away. The first thing these receivers are going to try to do is out-muscle him. But, unlike other situations I think that he wouldn't have really had great success anywhere he went. I think Washington is one of a handful of teams that had that back safety help that really fits his strength. They're not going to just let him sit on an island right now and get burnt. So I think you're going to see the opportunity for a lot of tip balls. That's what Forbes does. People talk about 400 of his interceptions last year came on tip balls. That's what Washington was lacking, ranked 28th last year, 29th year before in turnovers, but 13th in total defense. So all the pieces right now are coming together, but just like how Forrest came along last offseason, this is what's going on with Butler right now. But he's one of the most exciting guys I'm watching on defense. On offense, people, no matter what you say, any kind of praise you give to Howell, you're a homer. But with me, I've been scouting Howell since 2018, and I've seen the progression. And one thing I hear unanimously, I talk to guys like Doc Walker, anybody who I can pick their brain that's, able to be in camp, Zach Selby, anybody. And the difference is from the quarterbacks from years past is the ball is jumping out of his hands. There's not that lackadaisical wind up. There's a lot of tempo. They're not really showing their hand right now, especially to the media, practice open to the media, what they're going to be doing. But I think, they're not dumb as far as this offensive line is a work in progress. And I think, with how they have a guy that the ball really jumps out of his hands, gets the ball to his playmakers that really make, yards after the catch. So I think Howell's a guy that, Dotson said already, people think there's this competition. There's not a quarterback competition going on. This is excuse me, this is just coach talk. I think when you have players already saying, how's the guy, he fits the mold. Add in the fact that if the pocket breaks down, he can get you yards. People were comparing him to Taylor Heineke, but Taylor Heineke wasn't running through players. He was trying to run around them. This guy can run through players. So it's not something he's going to make a career out of. But, one thing that I love to see a rookie is the kind of touch that he has on his short balls and his, intermediate looks. People are really focusing on the long ball. We'll see that a couple times a game, but I think for the most part, you're going to see a dedication to the run and a big dedication to short and intermediate and play action. And really, that's the kind of quarterback that you want managing that kind of offense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, especially if I know he's a second-year player, but he's basically a rookie. We've seen one small sample, one game of him play there. You're right. Andy, you brought this up before, Scouse. You've said, when you look at him and you can see that he can lay the wood, the touchdown against, smashing through Diggs, he's there. He's happy to put the shoulder.
Just ran right through him. I loved it. Love that. That's what you want. That's the kind of mentality, though, isn't it? Run through the man. And I loved it. And hopefully he'll do a little bit more. But obviously, keep himself, make sure he doesn't get injured, though. We don't want him getting injured either. So
right, that's the other key.
We've not had this healthy quarterback for a full season in 2015, maybe Kirk Cousins, something like that. So
I think it was Kirk.
We've had bad luck with injuries for quarterbacks. So let's hope that Howell can stay healthy first.
I think also, Adam, from your point that you just brought up there on Sam Howell, I think the change to the West Coast offense will make a massive difference as well. You're going away from them 5 and 7 step drop backs to throw. Right. You're now looking at 3-step drops, and that then makes the offensive line look a little bit better as well. It gives, it's less time, as you said, and if he's quick to process, which is exactly what you've just said there, if he's quick to process and get rid of the ball, you're giving your offensive line a bit more time to adjust to what's coming from the pass rushers and, through the middle, especially because we can't forget here. I know we're all sitting on a Commanders podcast. We're all homers, but every other team in the division has got better as well. And we're looking at, tough Philadelphia defenses. Micah Parsons is an absolute nightmare. We all saw what Kayvon Thibodeau did last year. We just couldn't do anything with him at all. So when you've got these sort of players on the other side of the ball, especially bringing in guys like Jalen Carter, it's going to be very tough. So if Howell can do that and he can get rid of the ball quickly, the offensive scheme will be better for him. We look like we could be onto a winner, and we both said if we can get top 15, top 20 quarterback play out of Sam Howell, that it will, no doubt about it, negate to a few wins extra coming in the season, because I think it was Carson Wentz I heard earlier again, I think on John Kimes, he was rated as 37th and Taylor was 35th. There's only 32 starting quarterbacks. So already, you're saying they're worse than some backups. Yeah. And, I saw something from PFN as well that came out earlier on. It was just a screenshot tweet that had, Jacoby Brissett rated about 14th, I think. But no mention at all of Sam Howell on there. So if you're telling me that Jacoby Brissett is the 14th best quarterback in the NFL and Sam Howell's already beating him out, I know you said it's coach speak, and I completely understand that. And I don't ever think there was a true quarterback competition. But if Sam Howell was terrible, there's no doubt about it that they would put Jacoby in. Do you know what I mean? And say, right, well, actually, this isn't working. We'll put Jacoby as the first choice.
Well, they don't pay $8 million for a backup quarterback unless you're happy with the guy himself. So, and especially looking at look at the guys that he's actually been, you worked with. Tom Brady's. There's some of the big names that he's been around.
Phillip Rivers,
He's been in a few Hall of Famers. So. He's great, and he obviously seems to have that nice mentality that he actually wants to actually help Sam become better person and player. So,
we both said it, didn't we? We both said it in the offseason when we knew that obviously Carson Wentz was going to get cut. It was, who do you want to bring in here next season as the backup? And we all said Brissett, and that was it. I think that was a great move. By the GM and the coaching staff to bring him in as that second place backup. So. No, it's all coming together, and obviously, as you said, we have to play it right. We're not going to bullshit. You know what I mean? Let's call it as it is. we are homers, but you don't want to sound like a homer, as you said, every time you bring up Sam Howell. But for me, it's all about footwork, and it's all about his placement of his feet. Are his feet looking better? Can he command that huddle? And that's what we saw in that last game, so that he was able to do that. So,
to be fair, I think the disrespect for Howell is unreal, to be honest. I mean, him dropping to the 5th round was a joke. I mean, being lumbered in with those jokers of quarterbacks that went ahead of him, Pickett, Willis, these guys aren't on his level. They really aren't. And he's got lumbered in with that, and then people forgot about him because he wasn't making any noise. That's all it was. And then he ended up in the 5th round. He's going to show people that he's the real deal, man. He's as me, Adam knows probably more than me, but he in college, he's been three-year starter. Everything changed in his last year. Okay, he lost a lot of his weapons in his last year. So what did he do? He ended up becoming more of a running quarterback. He changed his style of play to make sure they could actually do something, and rather than be an absolute nightmare season. So it shows that he is that guy who can put the team on his back. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And that's what I love about him. And besides the talent, and obviously the talent he's got with us, with our receivers, and okay, our line's a bit shaky, but with our receivers and the running backs we've got there, and with the screenplays that we're going to be using a lot with the enemy's offense, I tell you, man, we're gonna shock some teams, man. I tell you, we're gonna shock some teams.
I really hope you're right, Scouts.
Man.
I really hope you're right.
I'm excited.
You said, Adam, you've been scouting him since 2018. So, do you disagree with that at all? Did you see him as this first round pick that we was touted as a few years back?
Yeah, I had him come in the draft as a late 1st, early 2nd. And then when I talked to a lot of scouts, guys that I've worked with, what was their thoughts on it? And everyone says the same thing. They don't know how. But what they do understand is when you see a quarterback drop to that 2nd, 3rd round range, teams really start looking on their board of guys that they think that they can get in that 3rd, 4th, 5th round that, can contribute right away. And a quarterback that late, that's a developmental kind of, 2-3 year plan. So a lot of teams, it was just not a really strong quarterback draft. I stayed high on him. I don't understand because like you mentioned, he became, a running quarterback his last year, over 800 something yards rushing. And even passing wise, it was only, I think, less than 450 yards less than the year before when he had all those weapons. So to me, he shows the ability to adjust. He's a chameleon kind of guy, and again, I said it to everyone, he throws the best touch pass. As you see that baseball background and that touch pass, that's really what gets things done in the NFL is, these guys you see, they're either underthrowing them or they're just drilling it at them. And, they're getting a lot of tip balls in the air. This guy has the makings of exactly what Eric Bieniemy is looking to do. He mentioned screens. That's why, we talk about our guys, McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, but man, watch out for Logan Thomas and Antonio Gibson this year. Of course, I'll throw in Robinson. He's a better pass catcher than people think, but I think those two guys are going to have really big years because anytime they get the ball in open space, Logan Thomas showed he's a load to bring down. Can he stay healthy? Same with Antonio Gibson. I think getting him away from the run game takes away more of the threat of him fumbling the ball because even if you look back to college, he wasn't really putting the ball on the ground when he was in the open field. It was more about when he was running between the tackles. So, I see why they drafted Rodriguez later in the draft. This is more of a bowling ball kind of guy that they like as well. And I really think that, with Gibson's, this is a contract year as well. He's going to get a lot of opportunities in the short game because that's what they're going to do for Howell. They're going to really dedicate to the run, run that short game. And then you're going to see it's just going to open things up. We're going to see that finally. I was saying it since last year, more RPO, that's something that Howell's been doing since, college. So the relation between the West Coast and this modified Air Coryell, that, there's a lot of comparisons. There was some good articles out over the last, couple of weeks about it, but it's timing based. But again, you're not having to do those 6-7 step drops, those 3-step drops, even faster, just like a 1-2 throw. I think it's going to be quick reads, just really putting them in a good position, to have a lot of success. So.
Oh, that's brilliant. That.
And let's face it, he played under Scott Turner's offense
right
year, so.
Yeah,
that's all it needs
not
to say.
Not a bad offense. It's just if you can't teach your offense, it's not you. It doesn't matter what offense you have in Bieniemy. That's what separates him. People say he never called plays, but he's from the coaching tree and he's got an offense that I believe that'll work. And he straight up said it. He will adjust it to his players. Turner was not willing to do that at all.
So on that point then, we've got a question a little bit later on, but it molds into the point that you've just spoke about then. Who do you think then will have the biggest impact on the team in 2023? Do you think it'll be Sam Howell or do you think it'll be Eric Bieniemy?
I really think it's going to be Bieniemy. I think, it's a 1-year deal. Ron Rivera's in the last year of his deal. No coincidence. I think new owner comes in. I think that they're going to just kind of wait and see what happens. I think, the management team will pretty much get gutted after this year, regardless, unless you're seeing it, somehow they get to a Super Bowl, which I don't see. I think, but Bieniemy, he's going to show so much growth in this offense. He's going to be an automatic head coaching candidate. And I think Rivera, this has been a lot for one guy to deal with for the last couple of years, because he's been this de facto GM. I think that, he'll probably just willingly walk away. Maybe he'll stay involved with some part of the organization. I could see that happening. But I think Bieniemy is really going to show a lot of the naysayers out there that, what he can do when he's able to teach his offense. So I think I think he'll be one of those middle of the pack quarterbacks. I can see him ranked, in the 15 range. But I think Bieniemy, his scheme is going to work. I think, they're not going to have too much of an issue putting up, 24 points a game. I think that's going to be pretty standard for what we see from him early on.
And with our defense, that should equate to wins, average 24 points a game on offense.
Yeah. I think that the turnovers are going to go way up. I understand, they had it on video, so it's not like they can BS us. They were actually looking at the defensive end from Iowa when their pick was coming up, when they actually tried to move up to see what it would cost. So they were looking either way to upgrade their defense. So Forbes is a guy they wanted. And then when the second round came around, a lot of fans, including me, were looking at, some of the interior offensive linemen. And they went with Quan Martin. And again, after I watched this film, I completely understand it. They love guys that are interchangeable, and they love guys that can create turnovers. And that's what Quan Martin and Forbes did their last year. I think combined for 9 interceptions total their last year. So it's a clear vision of what they want to do. I was really not a fan of Del Rio. I was calling him a dinosaur, but man, over the last, probably 8 or 9 games, I've really seen, him and Coach Z adjust to the talent. I think that what it is they've bought in. Now the question is, Young, that's the biggest question. Has he bought in? Because that's what, the whispers have been around this team for about 2 years now, has he bought in? Daron Payne, Allen, Sweat, they've all bought in. And if Young hasn't bought in, I don't care what's going to happen. They didn't give him that 5th-year option. He's not going to have a lot of leeway this year. So if we start to see a couple games with him, really not producing, really getting caught up on the line, I think they will not hesitate to just, constantly rotate him out. But I think this defense is going to be what, puts them over the top this year. And I think 9-10 wins is definitely in the realm of possibility this year.
That's brilliant. No, I completely agree. So do you think there's a position group then, Adam, that we're short on, or that we could still address in free agency? I mean, we spoke a little bit there about the offensive line. For me, I still think there's question marks there. We've spoke a little bit about linebacker, which most of the fans would say, yeah, there's potentially a position there. But as you suggested, and we all know, we're playing one linebacker most of the time, maybe 2. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's never more than 2. And the safeties and the corners behind it are giving you that flexibility to not use a linebacker and playing that nickel, as you said, 70% of the time. And I expect that to continue as it has been.
Yeah, you look on paper right away. Linebacker jumps off you. They brought in Cody Barton, but they really brought back a lot of their backups last year. Mayo, Eifler, guys like that. So that's a weakness. But again, there's really nobody on the market right now that I think moves the dial at all to get on the field more. I think Barton, he got backup money, but with the potential to get valuable snaps when they need him. But again, I said it on the show I was with Doug the other day that I think that only Jamin Davis will be that guy that eclipsed the 50% snaps for the linebackers. They're going to go real heavy on cornerbacks and safeties. But offensive line, there's Dalton Reisner out of there. A guard.
Yes, I've been talking about him for 3 or 4 weeks now, and I've been talking about him.
I think that they like Sadiq, Charles, and Paul, and they really, it's a little bit concerning, but we'll see. Cosme hasn't showed the greatest durability, but they seem to have a lot of faith in him as a right guard. There's been no question of anybody challenging him for right guard. So I'd say that is a mild, concern as far as overall depth. But man, one guy that I see out there, and again, $5-6 million range, Yannick Ngakoue, last 2 years he's jumped around, but it was like 8 sacks, 7.5 sacks. You can get him for $5-6 million. I'm not sold that they are sold on Young's mental or physical right now. The kind of injury he has, everyone's like, well, it's an ACL. Well, no, it was more than that. There was more structural damage than he had. And it's really a mental thing. And what a lot of fans don't realize is when they're doing the rehab, that takes a lot of time away. They are to like improve their overall game. Daron Payne, I could see it night and day when I popped in 2022 and 2021. Same with Montez Sweat. His counter moves, Coach Z has been one of the best improvements for this defense, because when they got rid of Sam Mills, you saw a lot more teaching going on. So with Young, OTA is not a huge deal missing them, but those are timed with your teammate when you're working on their counters, and you're even just doing it mentally. So I really question if he can take it to the next level, because one thing that I see with Young, he has this stutter step, and really it worked in college, but it's just not working in the NFL. So I think that if they don't have him, I like KJ Henry as a developmental guy, James Smith-Williams, all guys contributors, but they're all just kind of guys. And is a little bit concerning, teams will start to, take advantage of that side of the field if Young's in the game and really is not a threat, if they're just, running wide zones on him, because Montez Sweat, what I love about him is he could chase down running backs, receivers, tight ends from the backfield with his kind of speed. But Young wasn't known for speed to begin with. And now I think it'll still take time for him to get that explosiveness back. So a little concerned about that position. I think a lot of things have to go right for them to be, challenge for the division and be, a 9-10 win team. But man, I think that with the way the Giants, Philadelphia, and Dallas, everyone is countering each other right now in the division. But, unlike other teams within Washington's situation, I think they could deal with a couple injuries at some key positions, unlike years past. Some of these other teams in the division, I don't think that they could handle that. I think if, we lost a quarterback, a cornerback, a linebacker, even defensive line for a game or two, I don't think it would be a death sentence for them. So that's what I feel good about. Feel good about depth at a lot of their spots. But yeah, there's always going to be question marks somewhere on the team,
True.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm just trying to think really of is there actually anybody out there at linebacker you think that could be worthwhile, even like cheap? Even a cheap.
No.
Everyone back much out there.
Everybody out there, they're role players. They're not Mike linebackers. They're not that middle linebacker that they don't really have on this roster. They have a bunch of weak side linebackers and some guys that can play middle linebacker, like David Mayo. He'll be the primary guy behind Cody Barton. But Cody Barton, from the one we got from Seattle, really it was the last 5 or 6 games that he had extended snaps with the starters. And, he was top 5 in the league in coverage. But again, that's just the last couple games. So, yeah, I'd like to see them upgrade those spots. But I love the idea of these cornerbacks. As long as we can see, as long as they're not getting run over, as long as they're able to handle the run game, I honestly think you're going to see a lot more situations where there's only one linebacker on the field anyways. So I don't think it's going to be a huge issue.
You've been really generous with your time there, Adam. So I've got one more, but Scouse, you go first, mate.
I was just going to talk about that. Was just kind of, do you think having so many, I know it's not on the list here, but just kind of having so many DBs playing like nickel or all these type of things, where you're thinking, wait a minute, a lot of these guys, I'm questioning their longevity, as in without being injured as such. Because if they're going to keep it, as you mentioned, some of these guys lay the wood. But can they do it every time? Every snap without being hurt. Do you know what I mean? Or getting hurt quite easily? Because obviously linebackers are built differently, as we all know. They can handle it more. That physicality side of it. I know Curl. We mentioned Curl before, and he's like probably, in my mind, he's a top 5 safety in the NFL.
For sure.
And it's just kind of how good he is in 3 or 4 different positions. It's just unbelievable. We need to sign him up pretty quickly as well.
We certainly do.
His contract, when we sign him up.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the change in ownership in a couple weeks, and I really do think that one thing I've seen, at least with how Josh Harris has run his other professional teams, is when he's got a star, he usually locks them up or moves them for assets. So he's not a guy that is going to sit on it, what they've been doing. But Curl, he's been playing the game like Allen, McLaurin, and them did. He showed up to OTAs, just did position drills, didn't get in too many 7-on-7s, but I think he gets the bag. And I have an article about that, what I think the numbers wise will be. But I think a lot of people got caught up with his father on social media talking about $20 million a year. And this and that.
That's Greg. That's Greg all over.
Greg. So he'll get paid like a top 5 safety. But yeah, to me, he's the most, other than a change of ownership, he's the most important position to lock up before the season starts. But I'm pretty confident about this season.
Yeah, you've been really generous with your time, Adam. So we really appreciate it. We'll get this last question out there, and then we'll let you get on. Is there a player that you've got that's you're specifically rooting for? Because we always like a camp player. You know, it's always been. I can't remember the wide receiver ended up at New Orleans. Was it Simi Cobbs a few years ago? Everyone was all over social media about him. Is there anyone that you've got that you're rooting for that's maybe an under the radar player who we need to pay attention to?
Well, I think he's got more attention over the last month. I mentioned him earlier. It's Kaz Allen from UCLA. I talked to Doc Walker about him, another former UCLA alum who really, got his thoughts because, Doc Walker, that's a guy, he watches college football. A lot of people don't hear him talk about, but man, he watches college football. And he just loved it, the idea of, having him at running back, receiver. I did a scouting report on him on my site. And it's just you talk about pushing Dax Milne off the roster. This guy actually can return the ball. And, they had him at 4.5 with a hamstring injury running the 40. I've heard people, going back to college that have seen him, 20 miles per hour, they believe low 4.3. So this guy could be the fastest guy on the team, not a big guy. But the thing is, he even played running back. So, you talk about a potential Curtis Samuel replacement next year for them to save some money. This is that guy. And I think, again, he's going to be a guy that's going to, a la Carter that we had a couple years ago at returner, Kaz Allen. This is a guy that's going to get a lot more attention. But, yeah, as soon as they brought him on, he was the one I was most excited about.
Nice. And what do you think about these new kickoff rules? What do you think about that?
I think they're going to slowly do away with it altogether. I think eventually there'll be no punting, there'll be no kicking, and they already proposed some of those rules to start off with the 25. So it'll take a little time, but they're going to take kicking away from the game. I think ratings have shown they want to see less kicking and more offense and defense. So eventually they'll work their way there.
Well, Adam, can't thank you enough for being on with us. Honestly, you've been really generous with your time. And I know we've tried to set this up for a couple of weeks now, so it's great to have you on. If you just want to plug your social media handles, your podcast, where people can come find you, because I'm pretty certain that our audience across this side of the pond will no doubt jump on that.
Sure. Always find me at theburgundyandgoldreport.com. I'm on Twitter a lot. The B and G Report. You can find me, like you mentioned, Doug McCrae and George Carmi. We do a weekly show. We're talking about the draft during draft season. We've been going towards position groups. We'll slowly go more towards fantasy, talk about the fantasy league stuff we do. Other than that, I have my own YouTube show, which I'm just airing shows with Doug right now. It's called B&G Report Happy Hour. Sometimes I make appearances. I'll put it on there. But for the most part, the burgundyandgoldreport.com, I'll have you through camp. We usually put out, 2 to 3, scouting reports, articles a week. Just check us out, theburgundyandgoldreport.com.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it. We'll definitely get you on when we've just had, probably not long after we've got the 53 and we're at the end of pre-season, just before we go out, just to get that last minute right. How do you think we've done? I think that'll be well worth getting you back on then. But thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Have a good one, guys.
And you, Adam. Cheers. Adam. Thanks a lot, mate.
Bye-bye.
There's the man, Adam. Yeah,
the man himself.
He knows his stuff, doesn't he?
He certainly does. And I mean, what's really interesting there, though, Scouse, is the things that we've been saying, Adam's brought up. So it fills me with confidence that I'm not just a terrible fan who doesn't know what he's talking about.
We've got a little bit of an idea.
Yeah. Absolutely. But really interesting chat around Chase Young there as well. And, he straight away is one of them who's noticed the things that you've been on other podcasts talking about as well, around his medical condition and around having quite a serious injury, that, as you said before, career ender, you know what I mean, potentially.
Yeah.
And
it was, 100%. And obviously, is he going to be the same guy? And Adam mentioned his mentality as well. Is he buying into the system? Is he not? Because if he doesn't, that's what happened in the second season. Before he got hurt, he was doing his own thing. He was breaking contain, and we were getting destroyed because of it. So that's why he got virtually I think he got 1 sack, didn't he, in 10 games? So he was trying to do his own thing, wasn't buying into the system. The system does what's meant to do to create contain. Do you know what I mean? So these running backs will kill you when they're going out to the sides, and he wasn't doing it. So I'm hoping he's bought in, because if he hasn't, Adam thinks there that he could be on the bench. You know what I mean? And put in
Henry, or you know what I mean. So What's really interesting there as well is, I mean, there's been talk of Indianapolis this week, who, and Chase is on the trade block. It's rumor, rumor, and they've got to get clicks at this time of year. There's nothing going on.
Let's face it, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense for us to trade them unless it's going to be for a first-round pick.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. I mean, if someone said to you, "Hey, here's
it has to be tangible for us to go, we'll listen to that and maybe we'll take it.
It's got to be a second and something, you know what I mean, to make it happen.
Well, like a second and fourth or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you could do that. Maybe, but for me, I'd be like, no, if you want him, it's a first rounder. Simple as that.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think anyone's gonna be waging a first rounder for Chase.
Well, that's fine then. Well, that's fine. Let me keep him, because I'd rather keep him and see if he's back to his best or not this season. You know, if he's back to his best, you probably pay him anyway, or at least franchise tag him at the very least.
So there's been a little bit of news, nothing huge, but like a little bit of news here, and a bit of rumor, really. So we know now that the owners are set to meet on the 20th of July to rubber stamp the deal. With a bit of luck, think it's going to be in Minnesota again. I'm not sure if they're all going to have to get on a plane and go, or if this can be done via Zoom or something like that. There's no real details on that yet, but the date we've been given is the 20th of July. So with a bit of luck, this will be over a few days before camp, and the exchange of ownership will be done. And thankfully, we've heard obviously that Harris and his conglomerate have gone away, and they've changed what the NFL financial committee wanted them to change. So it's all looking good and all looking like it's going to move forward on that. And then the other bit of news here really is that we've been linked to Dalvin Cook. Okay. I mean, Jesse's put a question in for us here. So thank you, Jesse, from the Bleeding Burgundy podcast. Go and check them out as well. He said, when a player comes available, i.e. Dalvin Cook, for example, fans and national media think, it's a great idea for the Commanders to sign them. And then when we don't sign them, fans start crying. Why do we think this is? Do you think it's just media hype, or do you just think that...
I think Jesse's spot on, exactly that. They're bringing on... They're giving it a lot, the big, and we're going to get this big name in. Don't forget, man. I mean, Fan Snyder, as I call him, Fan Snyder. He used to do the big name buys and all the rest of it, but that was years ago. He stopped doing all that. The last kind of 4 or 5 years, didn't really do it too much. And this is the same thing. All these big names come available for whatever reason, and then us as fans immediately think, you know what? Yeah, the Commanders, they need players because they're not very good.
Yeah,
when the national media don't really know, they don't really know us, you don't do enough research on us, because we have been pretty bang average for years. So they just think, they're a bad team. Dalvin Cook would be great there because he's a good running back. Well, okay, but we've already got good running backs here now. Do you see what I mean? So, but the fans don't. Because like anybody, we all want better players, don't we? We always want to upgrade on what we've got, and Dalvin Cook would definitely be an upgrade on the running backs we do have. But again, at the end of the day, no way we're going to be going for him. We're not going to be paying him the money that he wants. We haven't got that money available anyway. With the money we do have, it's going to be going on Curl, let's face it. So, just fans, just forget about it. Dalvin Cook's not coming to us, mate. Simple as that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's one of them where you look at it and you say, really, the reason fans get really het up about it and they start crying and whinging about why we don't sign these players, you're absolutely right. It's not just Commanders fans. This is like wide. It's NFL wide. It isn't just us in our own little microcosm. I know when we look at our threads and our social media, all we'll see is the Commanders side of it. But let me tell you, Jesse, it's every team is like this as well. Everyone's always looking for an upgrade. And remember, fans are stupid, as you said. We're all couch GM. We're all couch GM. We're all couch GMs. We all want to upgrade. But we have a salary cap we've got to stick to. And as you said, Scouse, the money that we have got left is pretty much going on Cam Curl. So, yeah, that's that one. We have got quite a lot of fan questions today again. So thank you for everybody who has reached out to us and brought our fan questions in. And the first one, I'll go to you with this one, Scouse. Podfather Kyle Ronek from the Burgundy Zone came in and said, who is the one player besides Howell that has to have a career year for Washington to make the playoffs?
Ooh, good question.
Very good question, I thought, yeah.
A career year. I think I'm probably going to have to go for Terry.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, we know he's used to getting his 1,000-yard seasons, but I think he needs a lot more of the touchdowns because that's where he kind of falls short a little bit. To me, that's why he's not classed as one of the top 3 receivers. Even though I think, well, we all think as our biased heads that he probably is the top 5 receiver in the NFL. But yeah, if he can get career year, I add those an extra maybe 4 touchdowns, maybe to what he normally gets. That'll send us over the top because that'll just open up everybody else. That'll open up the Dotsons then to produce even more, and Samuel as well. So for me, if Terry can have a career year, I'm talking like big numbers, then yeah, I think that's the big one. I think that's, besides Howell, obviously, that's the obvious one.
Yeah. So outside of Howell, I'm going to go the other side of the ball. I'm going to go Montez Sweat. I think Montez this year has to bring it round, turn them pressures that he has been getting into sacks. And I think obviously if he turns them pressures into sacks, you're going to get more turnovers. You're going to get better field position for Sam Howell to go down the other side of the field and then feed Terry internally, like you've just said, so the numbers can come through. I think it's got to be Montez Sweat. He's in a contract year. He needs to go and chase that bag. We've spoke ad nauseum about Chase Young there, but if we take that as a microcosm on its own and Chase Young, we take away from it and say he wasn't there last year. What kind of not didn't let us down, but what could have been improved from last year's defense? It was Montez Sweat getting them sacks. So for me, that's where I would go with having a career year for that one.
It's also very hard, isn't it? I mean, you got to think about Sweat. I mean, he's so athletic. He's got massively long arms as well. So he's a great guy in like kind of like batting balls down and stuff as well. But the thing is, the reason why he doesn't quite get that sack or whatever it is because the quarterback's just throwing it to the other side just before he gets there, to see what I mean. Yeah. So because it's easy enough where if you've got an actual elite guy on that side, then Sweat will start to eat more, if that makes sense. Because the QB is like, hold on for that extra second longer, and that's all it needs. And then, Sweat, bang, there he is. Hopefully strip sacks, So, yeah. But see what I mean? So, like, if we were better on the other side, the other end, then, Sweat would probably get his numbers anyway. It's like big numbers.
I hope so. I hope you're right.
Well, it's on Chase Young, isn't it?
It is on Chase Young. So Canada Mike, he's done about 100 questions again. Thanks, thanks, Mike. Really appreciate you. So he said, if a genie said the Commanders would win the next 5 Super Bowls, but you have to punch your wife in the face as hard as you can, do you think she'd let you do it and would be supportive? In my household, absolutely not. I would get my ass kicked completely. I'm not into domestic violence, I'll tell you that. But the only one who's receiving any domestic violence is me. I know which side my bread's buttered. And the wife.
To be fair, if I was guaranteed 5 Super Bowls, I think I'd just do it anyway. Even if she wasn't, even if she wasn't supportive. Do you know what I mean? And I just have to just bite the bullet after that, just bite the repercussions from it afterwards. But yeah, man. I mean,
the things you do for this team, the
things you do for this team, man. The things you would do, man. Anything to make it work.
Not at all. That is not happening in my household. I'll tell you what, right?
Hey, and by the way, I'm not a domestic violence dude either. By the way, I'm just saying, like,
yeah. I wear the trousers in my relationship, but she just picks them out for me, mate. That's how.
Yeah. Who irons them? You or her?
Yeah, all right. Okay. Me. So if Howell clicks this year, how many TDs do you think Terry and Jahan will get? Tough question. This. Cheers, Mike.
I'm going to say about 18. I'm going to say about the 17 to 18 mark between the two.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be that high. I really do. I mean, I say it's all about giving the ball. These guys are basically, especially one-on-one, these guys are unmarkable. You know what I mean? You can't mark them out the game. Only when you're double teaming these guys, that's the only way. If you've got a decent quarterback, you can actually get them the ball in the right positions. It's game over for you, the team. It really is. It really is game over. These guys are that good. So
you know what?
It's all on Howell, man. It's all on Howell.
17 isn't a bad shout, actually. They're 17, 18, because if you think about it games-wise, it's one a game, isn't it? It's one a game.
Yeah, between the two, which is
doable.
Between the two,
you know what I mean? Is very doable. Yeah, you're right. Very doable.
I mean, Jahan would have probably done about maybe 12, 13 last year. He wasn't injured for 6 weeks. So
he's going to be a cheat code next year. He is going to be a cheat code.
Honestly, man, that's what I'm saying, man. We've got some serious weapons, man. We just not put it together on the national stage and really showed out. You know, the last time, okay, with the Philly game, we just did it hard nosed, old school type of style of play, run the ball, control the clock, stop hurts, and be on the field. If we actually start producing some real kind of exciting kind of play in national time, I know we've only got 2 games, I think, this year on national media, but if we can do that, then we're going to start getting some love. Do you know what I mean? And I think because at the end of the day, if we go like 4-0 in the first, the hype's going to be there. The national media going to change all their tune and everything else. So and Sam Howell's the next coming of bloody Tom Brady. Do you see what I mean? so all these things happen all the time, don't they? It's like, but yeah, for me, man, if Howell easily 18, maybe pushing 20, maybe between the two, maybe.
So his next question is: even though the sale will go through and Snyder will be gone, is there a 1% doubt in your mind that Dan will somehow, some way come back?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, there's always something about Dan Snyder. He's sneaky as hell. He's probably got his litigators and his investigators already trying to have Josh Harris off already, even before the sale's even done. So he's going to try and find all his fucking, his skeletons in his closet type of thing, and probably leverage it somehow. I mean, let's face it, RG was trying to get involved, wasn't he? Well, let's face it, he's like best mates with Dan. So that'd have been perfect for Dan to have RG in there, and that'd be kind of his power grab, if that makes sense.
His little stooge.
Yeah, his little stooge, his bro. So, I mean, but obviously, I want to keep but there's that 1% chance. There is always that 1% chance with Dan Snyder. Always is.
Next question. Will Robinson go over 1,500 yards on the ground this season? For me, no.
Ooh,
that is a serious reach. I think if he's getting anywhere near 1,000, I'd be very, very happy with that.
Yeah, we've done well with that. Because obviously, he's not going to be just him. It's going to be...
Yeah, that's what I mean. You've got to feed the ball.
You've got to feed him. You've got to feed Rodriguez. And also, you're going to be feeding Gibson as well.
And you've also got to think about then the production as well from not just the running plays. You've got to think about the wide receivers. Passing. You've got to think about the tight ends. There's a lot of the ball can only go to so many people. So
there's only one ball. There's only one ball, and we've got a lot of weapons. So it's I think if you're looking realistically for him, half of that, 750, 800, something like that.
800 yards would be ecstatic.
And then maybe another 5 or 6 for maybe Rodriguez. Maybe just depends how often they're going to use him. If they're going to use him, as a 3-down back, as in not Rodriguez, the other guy, Robinson, then you might get touching that 1,000 yards if he doesn't get hurt. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no way near 1,500. Nah.
No, I don't think so either.
Nah, mate.
Another funny one. So, would you rather go shirtless in January away at Buffalo or Speedos in Miami in the summer?
Oh, mate. I mean, obviously, for me, you'd rather go Speedos in the nice weather, wouldn't you? To be fair.
Would you? Okay.
Only when you got a slung like I have. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, well, maybe.
It's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's all good. But the thing is, I mean, obviously nobody else would want to see that, though. That's the thing. So I don't know if that would be, blind people and being cruel to people's vision there. I don't know.
Speedos in Miami is not my scene when it's looks like a budgie tongue and you've got a body like a melted wheelie bin. No, it's not. It's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's more comfortable if I'm there just in the Speedos rather than actually working at -20. In Buffalo with no top on.
I'll take Buffalo with no top on because I've got a bit of padding. So
bit of flab there. Yeah. I mean, fair with that same reason, I should probably do that one. However, I'm going for the nice weather. Give me Miami, baby.
Okay. Does being on the Sleep at Work podcast with Aaron, shout out to Aaron, and give you a soft spot for the Lions. Now, I was lucky enough to go on his show last week, and we had him obviously on our show as well. So, I have always had not a soft spot as such. I just like what they're doing in Detroit. I really think they're all right in Detroit. I think Dan Campbell's doing good things there.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like the process of what they're building over the last couple of years, especially with when you see a good coach, an up and coming coach, and it's actually really is coaching his players, and you see the improvement and you see what they're trying to do. I like that. That's why I've got respect for Brian Dayball. I've got respect for these other guys. Campbell, like I just mentioned. There's a few of these guys out there who've got a plan of action, and it's like, and you just see what they're doing. You can see it, and you see the team just getting better and better each week. And that's what I like to see. Even though I like to see us do that, being honest, but obviously with these other teams, especially like Detroit and things, that's what I've liked about them.
Yeah. Well, look at Doug Peterson with the Jags as well. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's they're building the team, and they're building it from nowhere, and they're building it up. And it's like, okay, it's quicker than our build up, but don't forget though, these guys have never had the shit that fucking that Ron's had to deal with, man. I mean, I don't think anybody ever in NFL coaching times has had to deal with the crap that he's had to deal with over the past 5 years of being here. Yeah. Obviously his own health, that's a big one, and he still never took a day off, man. Still never took a day off. Never missed a game. Was always there. Even though he was doing chemo like at 3, 5 in the morning, he'd still be there at practice later on that afternoon. It shows them. Most guys would probably retire if they get cancer.
Yeah.
He's like, nah, mate, I'm still playing. I'm still going to coach on. During the treatment and everything, didn't take him time off and then come back. No.
And you had COVID to deal with.
They had to deal with COVID, and then you got to deal with fucking Dan Snyder's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all the shit coming out, all these
out of hand a bit, and then
see what I mean? Like
name changes.
Most of these guys have not dealt with any of that. Not even one stroke of those 5 things you just mentioned. So, from that angle.
Doesn't it just show you though that he was the right man and is the right man at that time to bring that culture forward?
And he bought a playoff game. Okay, we didn't win, but and he bought a playoff game with all that shit. So I mean, and this team is a lot better than it was when he first took over. I tell you that.
100%. Yeah.
But we go through team by player by player, position by position. This is a much better team than what it was then. I mean, he came from a 3-13 team, by the way.
Yeah.
He took over from fucking Stooge Gruden. So I mean, I've got to say, almost respect for Ron. I mean, do we need somebody probably a bit more up to date now? Maybe with his offensive line. I mean, if anyone wanted to stay here, as an offensive coordinator, that'd be awesome. But he probably wouldn't relieve himself pretty soon as well, unless he gets head coaching job here, which might be the case.
Might be. So, last question from Canada. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead, mate. You good, mate?
No, I was just saying, because obviously, like people like these Dan Campbells or even other guys, even Andy Reid has never dealt with shit like that.
No, they haven't.
So so how do you test? How do you compare? Do you know what I mean? How do you compare these guys? Well, Reid, the greatest offensive coordinator offensive scheme going and all the rest of it. Yeah, great. And he is. Rivera's come from his tree, by the way. So so those things, he is elite, and he is that, but he's never had to deal with a name change. He's never had to deal with COVID. He has, but everything else, he's never had to deal with any of those things. Never had to deal with an owner that's an absolute scumbag. And getting hit by all angles, by media, by fucking these women and all the rest of it. I mean, it's.
We're also forgetting, the DEA raided the facility.
Yeah, and took his head trainer.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, he took his head trainer for drugs, man.
You have to sack. You have to sack some of your best mates as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sack Sam Mills.
That's what I'm saying.
He sacked Scott Turner, and again, he's a good friend of his. His dad's one of his best friends.
Exactly that. Yeah.
And he's had to do this kind of shit, man, to keep his job, but also to keep us moving forward, which is what's
crazy, isn't it? When we look back at that, that is a crazy, really tumultuous 2.5 years, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's crazy that we've gone through that.
4 years. 4 years.
Well, 4 years. Yeah, it's 4 years now. Yeah. If Joey Sly has a 58-yarder to win the Super Bowl, will you be able to watch?
I
think you got it, haven't you? I think you
got it. I think you're going to watch, but for a fact he's going to miss it. Simple as that, mate. The guy's a bum, mate. The guy's a bum. He'll shank it fucking left like he always does. Fucking wide left. The laces out, bro, or whatever you want to call it. Got the leg of an absolute beast, and he puts it wide every time when you need him to nail it. So, I mean, yeah.
Maybe he needs to work more on his place kicking and less on his guns.
Less in the gym. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Who knows? Yeah. So Steve Lim from Command This Podcast. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate you, mate. Nice to speak to you. He says, what is the one food and adult beverage you're looking forward to consuming when you hit the States?
Or do you want to go back to the chili fries at Thiesman's?
Oh no, no chili fries, man. No chili fries. That was a bad
chili
evening.
fries. That was
a bad evening.
Just ask anyone who was there.
Yeah, thanks, Burrows. No, for me, it is absolutely buffalo wings. Buffalo wings. Has to be. I do like.
Yeah, your wings are pretty good over there. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean,
your wings are pretty good.
Over here, it just doesn't hit the same. We can't get it. We can recreate it. I've tried to recreate it for Super Bowl, that sort of stuff.
It's not as good as it is. It's just not as nice.
Yeah. It's just not the same, is it? It's just not the same.
No, it's true.
Drink-wise, probably nothing alcoholic within the states that I'm looking forward to drinking. But what I am, yeah, it's like it's light beer is just okay. But for me, yeah, I think I am looking forward to getting to Dublin again because we're flying via Dublin and having a proper pint of Guinness.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, real Guinness. Yeah, that's quite nice. It's nice. I mean, I don't like the shite stuff. When you get the real deal, it's
exactly.
Nice,
we all had one. We all had a pint last time, and I think we'll do exactly the
good.
same this time around. So
yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Yam Sensei Yam Starch asks: Kinder eggs or mini eggs?
Oh, for me, it's mini eggs.
Out of them two, it's mini eggs as well, but actually
eggs,
not. Actually, neither. I like Cadbury's cream eggs. Oof.
Mate, that wasn't the question.
If I had to pick one of them,
answer the question, man.
It's mini eggs.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely mini eggs for me. Kinder's just it's shite chocolate, that mate. That's not good at all.
So David Black, Big Magic 101 asks: you can go back in time and attend any Washington game, Redskins game, Commanders game, or Washington football team game. What do you choose?
Well, it's got to be one of the Super Bowls, doesn't it? I mean, let's face it. It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. Would you go the first Super Bowl? Would you go We Want Dallas? Would you go We Want Dallas watching?
Oh, that'd have been awesome going to that. Imagine being at RFK for that one.
Yeah, when the cushion seats were thrown. Yeah, man, that'd be that'd
have been phenomenal. Yeah, to go and see that. Go and see that one. Especially non Super Bowl one. That'd be a great one to go to watch.
In my own fandom, I'd probably say the Vikings game, RG3 down the sideline. That was electric.
Yeah, but he said anytime. He said anytime ever. That's what he said in this question. So for me, it's like, yeah, man, probably our first Super Bowl. To be fair,
first Super Bowl. Yeah, you gotta watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Great question. Andy McCrory has asked: over under 35 sacks from Payne, Allen, Sweat, and Young this season. Ooh. So combined 35 sacks.
Yeah, between the four of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Devon gets anywhere near what he is, what he got last year, did he get 11 and a half? He got 11 and a half.
Yeah, I think it was 11 and a half, or was it 12 and a half? I can't remember.
11 or 12 and a half, something like that. Yeah. And then I think Alan got about 9.
Yeah, 8 and a half, something 9, something like that. Yeah, so that's 20 between them.
20 between them, yeah. So do you think Sweat and Young can do 10 each?
Well, 30. Yeah,
well,
15.
Yeah, over and under, isn't it? So you got to go. So if it's 35, would you lose your bet? So it's got to be over or under, isn't it? So, So do you reckon you could get
16 sacks?
16 between them two?
No, not for me.
I'm going to say no, so I'm going to say under, mate. I'm going to say, if you're going to do a bet on it, I'd say under 35. Maybe I reckon get about 30-ish, maybe 29. 30's a great.
30's a great.
I think that would be about where we're about. I think, but yeah. So if you're going to put a bet on it, mate, go under.
Because you've got to think, you wouldn't think that someone's going to regress. You'd hope they wouldn't regress, but I just can't see how.
You might lose a couple.
Yeah, I can't see how Payne can go back to the dominant force he is. Also, you have to think about rotation here as well. You know, you've got Phil Mathis coming in. You've also got Ridgway coming in as well.
They might get as many snaps now.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got the rotational edge pieces as well, who also picked up some sacks last year. So. If you're
going off the top, the starters, the main 4 guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to have to go under 35 there, mate.
I think so too. Yeah, I think you're going to have to go under. But I think 30 is a great shout, Scouse. I think that would be a great shout.
More realistic, I think. Yeah.
Great question, Andy. Thank you for that. Now, Commander Viscount's put in a few questions for us. So he says,
Commander Viscount.
Shout out. Yeah, he said 5 years from now, who will be our highest paid player currently on the roster?
In 5 years.
5 years from now.
Well, I'm going to be the optimist, aren't I? So I'm going to say Sam Howell's going to be our highest paid player.
Yeah.
because in 5 years his contract will be up in 3, so he'll be getting paid some big dollar. Because I think he's going to blow it. I think he's going to really just blow them out the water. I really do think he's going to be that good. So I think he's going to be a top 10 QB eventually, at his peak. And so I think he's going to be he'll be getting some serious wonga around that time.
Outside of Sam Howell, I do agree with you, Scouts. That's a great shout. Really, yeah, you've blown it out of the water then. That's nail on head. That is exactly what you want. But outside of Sam Howell, I would say either Cam Curl or Jahan Dotson. I don't know which one. Either of them. Yeah, I think
safety.
Cam will be on
safety being the highest paid player on the team.
Yeah, man. Wide receiver as well. You got to think Dotson as wide receiver, probably. He's a cheat code. He's going to be so good next year. And he's obviously still on that rookie deal.
How old's Terry going to be?
Oh, yeah, that's the
5
thing.
years,
How old is Terry?
29, 30 then, is he? Something like that?
Yeah, maybe 30.
So he's still going to be getting paid big bucks if he's still producing.
Mm-hmm.
His next big contract.
Let me just check that out, actually.
Yeah. It's a good question, actually, because, it's an interesting question, because it's got to be one of the main guys who says they're currently on the roster now as well. So it's not like we've got out and done something from free agency to pay them ridiculous money. So
he's 20. He's 27 now, Terry.
I was 27, so he'd be like 32 in 5 years. So
maybe not then. Maybe not.
He might be in his last main big contract, mightn't he, at that point? So
yeah. I mean, how long we got left on him? 2 more years.
Then. Something
like that. He's going to be 30 when he's getting his next contract.
Yeah, so you get one big one, but that'll be it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it could be huge. It could be a huge one. Just depends what he produces, doesn't it? Obviously, like anything else. But yeah, man. I think Curl's don't get me wrong, he's going to be getting paid and paid well, but I don't think he's going to be the highest paid on the team. I mean, you don't pay that for safety, not well.
No, you don't. You're right. Yeah. Outside of quarterback is what I was saying though. Outside of quarterback, possibly
safety. Nah, you just don't pay it, man.
20.
But 20. I mean, Terry's on more than that now. You see what I mean? The man in 5 years. So it's
Payne's on more than that. Yeah,
Payne's on. Payne's on 19. You see what I mean? So
what we're gonna.
See me. So for me, it's going to have to
question,
be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be one of your star players. It's going to be your star position, so it's going to be your QB if he's any good,
edge.
Or it's going to be an edge guy, yeah. But realistically, but we don't have a guy on there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
On the team at this moment, in the same 5 years, is going to be like A+ left tackle. So it's going to be receiver, isn't it? It's going to be your receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be one of your receivers. So it might be Jahan. It might get more than Terry. Just depends how well he produces. But yeah, so I reckon it's going to be receiver if it's not Hal. If Hal fails,
So which unit do you think do you have more confidence in? Do you have it in tight end, linebacker, or QB?
I'll those 3 QB.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he's got all the tools. This isn't the usual 5th round pick. He just isn't. This guy is a 2nd rounder, late 1st. Anywhere you go, you just kept quiet and just didn't kick off or anything really. If he kicked off, he would have went earlier. During that draft prospect, but draft night, sorry. But so for me, it's going to be Hal. Linebacker, as we mentioned before, there's not a lot going on there. You've got Davis, who's good, but he's only good. He's not great. You've got Barton, who's unknown. What the hell he's going to do. And then what was the other position you mentioned there?
Tight end.
Tight end. So you've got one guy who hopefully stays healthy and he gets back to his 2020 form in Logan Thomas. Again, you just don't know if he's going to come back to that level because an ACL, and he is in his 30s as well. He isn't like young anymore. So after that, then you've got again the unproven guys. So for me, it's got, even though QB is unproven at this moment, I've got more faith in him than you.
Yeah, I agree with you, QB as well. I think because behind Sam, you've still got Jacoby Brissett as well, who's proven in the league that he can start, win you a few games. He's better than bloody Watson was last year for the Browns, and obviously he's got that pedigree as well. And we're paying decent backup money for a decent backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Yeah, this is his market value, $8 million.
Of course,
I think it's about right for him.
And I think with them 2 in there, and then what behind that. You don't want to be getting into the 3rd stringers and the 4th stringers, but we know what happens in Washington. But I have more confidence in that than I would do in the tight ends, as you said, going from into the Hodges of the world, and I know Armani Rodgers is already injured, but Cole Turner.
I was looking forward to him, man.
Still don't know what we've got with Cole Turner.
I was so looking forward to seeing Rodgers this year, man. I really was. He was one of those guys, you're like, who could be your unknown star of this season. I thought it was going to be him, man. I really did.
I did too.
And then he's blown his bloody Achilles and he's out. So
yeah, I think we're both in agreement there. QB would be most in. Last question from Commander Viscount. Then he says, how would you rank the defenses in the NFC East, or first to worst?
Ooh, interesting.
Defenses.
Now we've got to do it unbiased here as well.
Yes.
We do have a good defense.
I think we do.
That's the thing. So, we do have a good defense, though.
Are we better than Philly? Is the question that I'm asking myself here. Because I don't think we're better than. I think we're better than the Cowboys, and I think we're better than the Giants.
Defense is good as well,
Yes, it is, but they only have pieces. They don't necessarily have. They have superstars. They've got superstars, but they haven't got an amazing defense overall. I mean, if you take Micah Parsons away from Dallas, what are you left with? Really, honestly, tell me another superstar on that defense that you've got if you take away Micah Parsons.
Lawrence.
Really?
He's a star.
Yeah, okay. What about the Giants then? Are we set? I would go Giants fourth is where I go as the defense. I mean, the only thing again, I'm looking at that saying
some good players though.
They have
drafted well as well.
They've drafted well
around as well.
Kayvon Thibodeau, he's a good player, but
outside
of that, I'm not seeing much. I'm not seeing a big rotation. I'm not seeing the depth. Who's the DT? Who's their DT at the Giants they've got that's pretty decent? Another DT there. I can't remember his name. Anyway, there you go. So if it was me, I'm gonna go. I'll go fourth, New York, third, Cowboys, Commanders second, Philly first.
Is that what you think?
That could be interchangeable. I think we have the potential to be better and be the best defense in the NFC.
When you look at the Giants' defense, man, it isn't bad. It isn't bad. The starters are pretty good. Okay, they're a bit dodgy after that, but you got Dexter Lawrence, you got
Dexter Lawrence,
Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okakere. You know what I mean? Like Davian Beavers. I was big into Davian Beavers, man.
Yeah, he's a good
last
player.
draft, but he was injured all last year, so no one ever saw him. But he's a quality player. As he is Adjulari, another very good linebacker. They also got Deontay Banks as well. So see what I mean? Yeah. So these guys out in Adoree Jackson on the other side. It's not a bad defense, man. It's not a bad defense. And then obviously when you're looking at,
I'm looking at the Cowboys here. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marzi Smith, Oji Garuza, I don't know him. Parsons, Leighton Van Der Esch, no. Clark, Jabril.
You don't like Van Der
Cox.
Esch? You don't like Van Der Esch?
No? Not for me. No. Gilmore, yes, okay. Trayvon Diggs, he's decent enough. Wilson,
Diggs.
and then Curse.
That's 11 interceptions last year, whoever it was.
Oh, come on, man! But is he?
He does get banned a lot. He does get banned a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Is he really that good, or
no? He's not that good.
Just go off his? Does everyone just go off his receptions?
People just go after him, don't they? They say he gets banned for 1,000 yards every year. He does. He just gets loads of picks as well.
And then depth chart for the Eagles is just like, you might as well just say it's Georgia. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, it's just it is a bit crazy. But
it is, man. It's good. And also they did lose a couple of players as well. But they did lose their D tackle, didn't they? The guy who played really well for them last year. Still probably say they're still better. They're still very good though.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Graham's great. I mean, he's a really good player.
Graham,
Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox. You've got Jordan Davis, who was obviously they lost for a lot of the year, as you said.
Jalen Carter as well.
Jalen Carter's coming in there.
Nakobe Dean's coming into the scene now.
It's
Sam Reddick.
That's what I'm saying. Nolan Smith.
James Bradbury.
James Bradbury.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. I mean, Avonte Maddox is decent. Keely Ringo is actually not a bad corner, when you look at it, Ricks,
and he's not going to start. He won't even start.
Greedy Williams, Darius Slay. I mean, come on,
they've got. That's what I mean, man. This is why But this is another reason, because obviously those teams, we haven't talked about offenses here, but
no, we haven't.
Those offenses, besides, I think the Giants is pretty meh. But the other two got really good offenses. So, and that's why we've made our defense better by getting the two guys in our first two rounds of the draft. Yeah. So for me, I'm probably going to go with Philly number 1.
Yeah.
Us number 2. Dallas 3rd. Giants 4th on defense.
Same as me, then. Yeah.
So what you said, yeah. So
exactly that. Yeah. It's tough though, isn't it? But I do think we could be interchangeable with Philly. It depends on its health.
Yeah.
It's health, 100%.
Really, isn't it? Everything's about health. I mean, everyone on paper looks amazing until you get on the field, and then you lose half your team. You think, okay,
plus you also don't know about scheme. You don't know if these other players who've come in, either as rookies, are they gonna take to it straight away, or are they going to play similar scheme to what they played at Georgia, because that's pretty much what they've brought in, or are they going to play like all of these guys who they've signed in the close season, as free agents? Are they going to hit it running? We've seen it here. We all thought William Jackson III was going to be unbelievable when he came in. Absolutely shocking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he didn't fit the scheme.
Didn't fit the scheme. Yeah.
So they thought he could do more than what he actually could. That's exactly the problem.
Hottest off field, cornerback you get in the game, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the guy we're going to get in, and it's like, nah.
The guy sucked, man. The guy sucked.
He did. So it doesn't always work out. So it will depend on a lot of things. But I do think we have the potential.
Well, it's like the draft, isn't it? The draft's a short lottery pick anyway. You like to think you've done enough research. You think that guy's going to be a perfect fit. And everyone thinks the same, don't they? Every head coach or every coach who's picking these players are going, he's a perfect fit for our scheme. So until they're not, if that makes sense. Until they're not. So it's interesting, man.
But again, really, cheers. We appreciate that, Commander.
Yeah, good questions,
thought-provoking questions, and we like that.
Definitely, man.
Simon Thurston, big shout out to Simon. I hope you're doing well, mate. We will catch up with you soon, I am sure. He has said, if you could bring back any past Redskins or Washington football team player as a great in their prime, who would it be?
Ooh, this is interesting, isn't it? There's two guys that come straight to my mind now. Now, obviously, the Sean Taylor's one. Okay. Yeah. Now, Sean Taylor, along with Cam Curl in this defense, fucking hell. No, that put you back to number 1 in the NFL. Never mind the NFC East as defense. That's how good he was. And imagine that. Imagine him playing free safety alongside Cam Curl. I mean, that'd be just phenomenal to see. The other dude, which obviously most people probably won't know too much about because he's old. Like I said, he was a long time ago. Was Sammy Baugh.
Yeah.
This guy, true franchise quarterback. Also could play 4 different positions and played all 4 on the field as well. So did play receiver for a bit. Was a punter as well. Did all sorts of different things. The guy was just crazy, insane good. And obviously I'd play him as quarterback because obviously we don't have quarterbacks. But yeah, they're the two that would kind of like really if you go back to any time in our history, one of those two for sure.
I'm going to go with a little bit a little bit out the box here. I'm going to go with Adrian Peterson. Can you imagine Adrian Peterson in his prime
AP? Yeah.
How nice. as a almost rookie QB, we know he's a second year pro, but handing the ball to AP in this scheme, in this offense. Yeah, give me some of that. Definitely. But great question. I mean, I was thinking, would you go Theismann? Darrell Green's a good shout.
I mean, Darrell Green's another stud. But I mean, the thing is, it's like we've had some quality players over the years. It's not always quality teams. That's the problem for us. But yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, it's got to be one of them. I mean, Darrell Green could be a great shout for somebody as well. But when you've got I think we've got decent corners though. I don't think we need to go out and get a Darrell Green, but a Sean Taylor in there, or legendary QB. He was Hall of Fame in '67, I think it was 1967. He was Hall of Fame. That's how long ago he played. But the guy just ridiculous as well. He just head and shoulder the rest.
Tony Wheat has asked, a couple of recent rankings of skill position players, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, have the Commanders in the bottom half of the league overall. Do we overrate our skill players, or have some of the national media boys got this wrong?
I think there's an element of both. I think because we always want to hype our players up, don't we? Let's face it. Oh, this guy's going to be the next coming of bloody whoever, And I've been caught saying stuff like that about how we want to build them up. I want them to do well, and that's the reason why we do build these guys up. Because to make not to knock them down when they play badly, it's to go. I really believe in him, and I hope that he produces. And I think with the national media, they don't give a shit about us. To be fair, mate, that's what it is. They just don't care about us. So I think they've got it wrong because you just don't respect us. You don't respect the players that are here, and I understand to a certain extent. You go off the numbers. If you don't watch the games, right? If you just go off the numbers, and which these national media guys do, let's face it. Unless they're a Washington fan, they're never going to watch the games.
Yeah, they're not watching the All-22, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to detail like we do. No one does. In the day, because I mean, if they were very good, when we were top of the league all the time, challenging Super Bowls, yeah, I'm sure they'll probably watch a few games or a few more highlight reels or whatever. But when you look at playing at the numbers, we averaged something like 17 points a game last year on offense. So skill position players there, you got to think bad. Straight away, you think bad, even though you got very good players there, but you don't see because you don't watch the games. You just go off the numbers. See what I mean? Yeah. So for me, it's a bit of both. We hype them up a bit, but I do think they definitely got it wrong. But I can understand why they're getting it wrong because they're not doing their due diligence and their research. They're just going off the numbers. They're going off the probably the stats guy in the back room there that's telling them stuff, rather than just going, well, actually, this guy, the skill set is unbelievable, or you know what I mean, or stuff like that. He's just not being utilized right because we haven't got a good QB or we haven't got a good whatever. That's the reason why he's not destroying teams. But yeah, so it's an element of both. To be fair, but I say definitely. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you're absolutely right. I think we hype up too well, too high, and I also think that the media often get it wrong and they don't look at what we've got. I mean, you only have to look at these NFL draft analysts to hype up these quarterbacks and other players as the best thing since sliced bread, and then 2 years down the line, they're terrible.
Out the league, yeah.
And they're out of the league. And but you never look back and go, well, hold on a minute. 2 years ago, you were saying that this guy was the generational talent and was going to be unbelievable. We don't look back at that, but we do also do the same thing. We're sitting here on a podcast talking about the Commanders. It's absolutely we're going to be hyping our own players up. Every man and his dog in the Commanders fan fandom will tell you Terry McLaurin's a top 10 wide receiver. On paper, statistics-wise, is he a top 10 receiver? Probably not. If you're just looking at the analytics,
exactly, and that's it, and that's what these national media guys do.
Of course, they do.
Until we start to win, until we start like turning heads, until we start turning heads, they're just going to keep looking at the numbers and saying, "Well, how many points are you averaging a game on offense? Oh, if you're averaging 28, okay, let's have a look at these guys. This guy's got some skills. They've got some ballers over there, and." 17 points. Nah, mate, fucking the shite. There's nothing over there. There's nothing. That's why every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets mentioned with us, i.e. the Dalvin Cook thing earlier.
Exactly right.
See what I mean?
That's exactly it, because you're always wanting to look for upgrades, aren't you? That's with anything. But again, cheers, Tony. We really appreciate your question, the Oracle, as he's known. Thank you for putting that in. Christian Burt from UKHTTC blogs, fantastic guy. Always in there. He said, of the front office, who is the most likely to be shown the door if and when Harris purchased the team? Who's going to go in the front office?
Mayhew. For me, it's
Marty Mayhew. Yeah,
for me, it's Mayhew. He's the one on the hot seat more than, say, even Marty Herney, I think, as well.
Yeah,
Herney stays out the way. Yeah, I think them two are definitely the ones who, heads could roll with them two, especially if these draft picks don't pan out. I can't see them being fired straight away. I think Josh is going to see how it's going to go, how it's going. These guys are fit for what I want to see in my organization. Give them some time, get to know these dudes first. But those two are the first guys you're thinking. Well, I'm thinking could be chopped.
Yeah, from the that side of the front office, your GMs, your player personnels. Yeah, I agree with you. There is another Eric Stokes, I think he's called. There's another guy who's in there.
But he's not a massive name. I mean, they all know. And the enemy loves him. The enemy knows Stokes well. So,
but potentially though, if he goes like director of player personnel, is that where Ron slips in?
Maybe. All depends if Ron wants to stick around.
If he stays, obviously, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Well, we're calling this and saying he's a dead lame duck coach, but this might not be the case. If we get to the playoffs and fairly deep in the playoffs, Ron's sticking around. He ain't going nowhere.
And this is the hard part, isn't it? Because we've passed up on so many top head coaches before. We've had them in the building and we let them go. McVay, the 49ers guy.
Yeah. Shanahan.
Yeah, Shanahan. That's it, Shanahan. Kyle, yeah. And then
you got
the dude in Miami. LaFleur. You got the guy in Miami.
Dude at Miami, yeah.
The Daniels, is it? McDaniels?
Or Daniels, yeah. That's Daniels, yeah.
All these guys have been in our building and we went, nah, we'd rather keep Jay Gruden. You see what I mean? You see what I'm saying? So
in zone.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, all these awful goddamn head coaches.
Oh shit.
Now, with Ron, it's a little bit different, but you've also got a guy in the building right now.
Yeah.
The enemy.
Correct.
So what do you do to see what I mean? It's so difficult.
We talked about this before, and Eric Bieniemy, you're absolutely right. It's a difficult one.
He's not sticking around, mate. He's not sticking around.
No, he's not.
If he's not head coach here, he's gone.
Correct.
Simple as that. Next year.
But he has to show that, and he's backed himself, as we talked about before.
Yeah.
The why not Washington? I'll put people in the positions that they need to be in. I'll scheme around what they're good at. This is proving to me that if this works and he doesn't stick around with us because he's going to get a job somewhere else. And that's fair enough. That's fair enough. If he leaves and goes to another head coaching job,
yeah, but do you want to lose him? This is the whole point. You see, it's like that next year. Because say we do well, we do great, and Ron's getting head coach of the year and all this crap, or because we've done so well for a change. Because mostly because of Bieniemy and probably Del Rio more than actually head coaching. However, as an owner, do you go, I'm sticking with Ron because he did great for us last year when we did really well. But really, you're going to let Bieniemy walk, or you're going to go, well, actually, I'm sorry, Ron, you've done great for us. However, we can't let Bieniemy leave the building, so we're going to promote him as head coach. Do you see what I mean? So it's so difficult. It's so difficult, and it's.
And that's why we don't own an NFL franchise.
I'm just glad it's not going to be me making that decision. But yeah, man,
if we've only won 3 games and we're at week 11, we might have a different story. You know what I mean?
He'd probably be fired in game.
Yeah. Comes the end of October.
Halftime fired, you know what I mean? Halftime fired, and then Bieniemy, your head coach. But
last questions then. We've got 2 more to go. Andy Burrows, shout out to Burrows. Thanks for putting this in. He says, what do we think of the shambles that is the new NFL League Pass for European fans?
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Let's face it.
I don't know enough about it. I know it's moved to DAZN as a platform, away from Game Pass. You said to me you don't have to buy a DAZN.
Yeah, you don't need to be. Yeah, you don't need to be a DAZN subscriber to get Game Pass. You can actually buy just the Game Pass element.
Because I'm a DAZN subscriber through boxing, so I've got.
Oh, really?
Already.
Yeah, so you've got already, right? So when you go online, see, you got to order it online, because if you order it via the app, you're actually getting the zone first before you even get the Game Pass. So go on the website first, get your Game Pass, because that's what I've done. I've not got the zone. I've decided not to buy that. And I just got Game Pass. Now Game Pass is obviously gone up like everything else. It's 150 quid now. Now I don't know what was Game Pass last year. I did buy it, but I can't remember the price.
120, I think.
Was it 120, 129,
something like that? Yeah.
So it's gone up a little bit as well. Like everything else, the zone probably taking their cut. But you don't have to have. But repeat, you don't have to have the zone subscription to get Game Pass. You can just get the Game Pass, even though it's inside the zone. If that makes sense.
I think whenever you change platforms, you change to a different.
It's
way of working. It's going to be more difficult to get used to, but hopefully it will be as good. The bit that maybe worries me is that are we going to get the same level of product that we've previously had from Game Pass, like i.e. the replays are there immediately straight after, the all 22 is still going to be there. I don't know if that is going to be available to European fans, and that's a lot of that is needed. You know what I mean? A lot of that content that we got there was needed, but this is like anything. I don't see a reason
why they would lose that though. Why would they make it worse? Do you know what I mean?
Know. Well, I've watched boxing on DAZN, and it isn't a great product. Going to be honest with you, it's not an amazing product at all. If you want to sit and watch all the hype build up and shite shows beforehand, before the bell and all that sort of stuff, you can watch all that. It's great. But for me, that is not a product that I wanted to watch. I think the difference from this is just boxing, so we're going a little bit off topic here, but the difference from going from Sky, which we would traditionally have, or even BT Sport, which was a lesser product, to go from there to DAZN. No, it's not. It's not been an amazing product. I'll be honest with you, it really hasn't. Right. But DAZN is massive in Europe, especially around Germany, around football and German Bundesliga football.
Spain's massive as well.
Spain, it's big in there as well. So we have to go with the times, I suppose. So for European fans, this is probably not going to be something that's very alien to them. You know, they'll be used to having DAZN. As a platform and as a subscriber, you can stream it obviously to the TV, so that is a bonus. It does work from the phone. So
you've got apps as well. I mean,
the app is fantastic.
The apps go in there. Yeah. So the apps. I've got a Samsung TV and I've got it directly on my TV. I don't even need to put it on like a fake box or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or a Fire Stick or whatever.
But as a product, I'm not impressed with the boxing side of it, so I'm hoping that the Game Pass product will be a lot better.
That NFL just go, no, we're just switching platforms and that's it. Everything else is staying the same. Obviously, you won't know that until they start to, until it starts up properly, because obviously, even though you've done it now, when you look at it, it's still the same stuff. Does that make sense? On Game Pass right now, it's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's the same back catalogue, isn't it? There's no catalogue change.
Well, until 1st of August is when it changes, you see.
That's right.
Properly, and there's no more Game Pass app. It's just on DAZN. So we'll find out then how good it is.
It's like anything. And this rolls into Andy's next point, which he says, it's also funny how we have a salary cap in the NFL, but when it comes to TV rights, etc., the NFL doesn't care. I agree with you, mate. And for a European fan, it's really difficult because I'm sitting here trying to watch Hard Knocks, you know, and I haven't got it it's not available. The in-season one for the Cardinals, I cannot find it anywhere. It's not on Game Pass. It's not on YouTube. It's not on a fake digibox somewhere. I literally cannot find it anywhere. And then I try my best and it's like, Jesus, what can I do? Oh, that's right. It's on HBO. You can't get HBO in the UK because they block it out. Can't even use a VPN to get it. Because as soon as you try and sign up for it, either through Apple Pay, Google Play, or through a credit card, it then goes, oh, sorry, you're doing it outside of the UK. And even though you could use like one of these online cards, like a Revolut card or, something like that, doesn't accept it. And you're just like, this is wild. Nightmare. So I just can't get that content. And then we're now missing out on content, or you're going to have to pay for something else. But this is the world of the Shield, and this is the world of the NFL as a whole. They sold their soul to get as much money as possible. And fair play to them. This is what they've got to do. They've got to try and get their money back somehow, because the salary cap in the actual game continues to go up and up and up and up, and the players want to get paid more all the time, and fans bums on seats and attendances is not doing it. It's not doing it. Yes, we have sellouts everywhere, but the season ticket prices are ridiculous. Concession prices are ridiculous, no matter where we go, whether it's us or whether it's, I had a look. I thought, do you know what? I'll see how much a ticket is at the Raiders. Appalling. I need a new mortgage. Do you want me to get a Raiders ticket? Oh my word. And that's just a single game ticket. Over $500 for a single game ticket in the nosebleeds. Wow. What's going on? I know you've got to pay for your stadium somehow. And I hope we don't go down this route when we eventually get a stadium like that. You want to look at Atlanta as an example. I know their ticket prices are quite high for season tickets. And I know that their even single game tickets seem to be a little bit more expensive, but the concessions are very, very low. You can go in there and get a beer and a hot dog for $10. So
yeah.
But that's for both. That's for both.
I've actually seen decent end zone tickets actually at Atlanta because one of my friends is an Atlanta fan and he's hoping to go at some point. That's why I started messing around, having a look at tickets like directly on their website, and it was like $150, which
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think it's expensive, but it's not that bad. Especially when we get ripped off in England when we get the Wembley tickets and the Tottenham tickets.
You took a 90, 100 quid just to go to Wembley to watch a game,
Yeah, but you're talking top.
More.
That's at the top.
Oh, that's at the top.
90 quid.
Yeah, no doubt.
90 quid. Yeah. But I think 150 is okay for a decent seat. I think that's okay. In my personal opinion, I think that's okay. I'm willing to pay that. Not more than 150 is probably the max. Don't want to pay any more than that, really, unless I really have to. But in general, unless it's an amazing seat or get something special with it, otherwise But no,
but yeah, I do agree. I do agree with you, Burrows. I mean, I know that the NFL sold its rights in the UK, so in the US, so the equivalent to Game Pass in the US is now on YouTube, or it's going onto YouTube as of this season coming. Not free YouTube; you have to pay for it as premium, and that'll be the same, similar to what we've got on our Game Pass.
Though, it won't be like normal YouTube Premium. Like
no, it's not. It'll be
like
a premium subscription.
One.
Yeah, absolutely, totally different. So it'll be very interesting to see that. But I agree with you, and it's one of these difficulties we have being a fan abroad or being a European fan, a British fan, wherever you are. It's a nightmare. Fanatics the same. I mean, we were talking before we started the pod here. You were just saying there, for a jersey and 2 polo shirts, 80 quid, 80 British pounds. So what's that? $100 just to send
deliver.
It.
Yeah,
just to send it to us. Yeah,
before
in customs and excise fees.
Before customs?
Oh, that was before customs.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So
you're probably looking at about £130 all told to get you a
like
jersey
and
2 polos.
And it wasn't nothing heavy. It was literally 3 tops, basically. From the American Fanatics.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's out of order, to be fair.
And that again, Fanatics, because everything's run through the NFL, through Fanatics, through that specific brand, through that specific, website.
Especially if you want real stuff, not no fakes. You know what I mean?
To get the real stuff.
Yeah,
you're struggling. I mean, there isn't even a black jersey available. You know what I mean? In the
on the
UK
isn't.
one.
That's the same. I've had to order in the States, haven't I, to get mine? I'll get mine soon.
So, yeah, great question again, Burrows, and I think that's something we could potentially dive into a little bit more. Let's put some feelers out to the NFL and write a very strong worded letter, and we'll see where we go from there. But that's it. That's it, Scouts. Really long pod today. I didn't expect us to be going on this long. So, unbelievable. And there's nothing to talk about. And we've rambled on for an hour and a half. So if you are listening to this still, thank you for being here. You know, I appreciate it. If you've switched off after 40 minutes, not a drama. No problem at all. But yeah, really long pod. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it while you're walking the dog, while you're out with the missus, while the kids are bouncing on the trampoline or whatever you're doing this weekend. Enjoy it. Training camp will be around soon.
And just think about the obviously people who are watching on YouTube. Look at the new kit we've got, man.
Yeah, a bit of merch. We've got a new bit of
merch, man. So, we've got a cap. We've got a couple of jerseys, a couple of like polos. Nice, man.
So if you're interested in any of them, let us know, and
we'll sort you out.
We'll get them sorted. All right, thanks for that, Scouts. Thanks for being with me again, and we will be back the same time next week.
Bye.